A2L transition. I'm going to share my screen here in a minute, and we're going to go over some of the transitions for the Allied Air product lineups. And if you have any questions too, if you could save them to the end. And if you're not familiar with the Teams platform, most of you are muted right now. You would just want to make sure either you add your questions in the chat section, you can raise your hand, or unmute yourself at the end, and then you can ask till your heart's content with any questions there. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me a second while I figure that out. Old dogs, new tricks. Get a pointer available. All right, we're good to go here. So as Susie mentioned, my name is Tom Frank. If you're not familiar with me, I am one of the product managers here at APR Supply, and I manage some of the southeastern region, so the Philly metro market is how I refer to it. But we're going to talk about some of the various brands here, including Concord, Aries, Armstrong, Magic Pack. Those are all Allied products. I will go over at the end too quickly a brief change in some of the 25C federal tax credit for 2025, which is important. I will do my best to move right along. Not wanting to cooperate here. All right, we'll just do it that way. So let's talk about real quick refrigerant change. We don't need to get into great detail. This is a mandatory regulatory change that's happening here. This has to do with global warming potential and moving towards a lower global warming potential than the current refrigerants available today. Allied is moving to R454B, which has a GWP of 466, which is nice and low. Other alternate refrigerants that still conform would be, and you'd find them in most of the ductless manufacturers, are R32, which is 675, which is kind of squeaks under the radar. So, you know, something to think about with 454B is there are a couple different brands, a couple different choices. 454B, you know, is more environmentally friendly. It's got the lower global warming potential. This just quickly showing how that phase down works. If you've been through a refrigerant change in the past, I have, you'll know that it's not particularly enjoyable, but we will get through it. This has to do with phase downs over time of the refrigerant itself, when manufacturers can stop or have to stop making equipment, which is really just a few short weeks away. And then there is some sell-through available in the marketplace, which we'll talk about as well. This slide here just really talking about that. If you were to think about products that are available in the marketplace, you could kind of put them into a couple different buckets. There are products, which are finished goods, sealed refrigerant systems from a manufacturer. Those products have a 3-year sell-through. Systems, which would be, you know, various components that get matched together and are installed out in the marketplace, have a 1-year sell-through. And then repair components, things that, you know, maybe use 410A may have a longer sell-through there if they meet some of the standards put together by our government. And then parts, tools, and testing is you just want to make sure you have the right stuff to work on the equipment using the new refrigerants available today. This slide here is really just, you got a bunch of check boxes and a bunch of different categories here. The point of the slide is practices. If you're using good practices today for 410A, really there isn't anything wildly different about 454B, with the exception of this checkbox right here, which we'll talk a little bit about, which has to do with refrigerant detection systems that's required on new A2L refrigerants. Everything else really stays the same. You're gonna install it the same, you're gonna select the equipment really the same. Load calculations are important, duct work, charging, everything that you do with the current refrigerant today. There's just a couple other components that are required with the newer refrigerants. This slide here just is a quick explanation of those components and where and when you might need them. I'll review this a little more detail later, just as an introduction. that we have a refrigerant detection system control, which is the kind of the heart that makes the whole thing work, or the brain. And then we have refrigerant detection sensors. And you can kind of think of these two components when you put them together. They operate kind of like a wet switch, that when they detect a particular amount of refrigerant, they will act in a way that shuts down the compressor, runs the fan in the system to dissipate any of the refrigerant that may be in the airstream until it gets below a particular allowable amount of refrigerant, and then allows the system to work again, unless other sensors within the system say it's not a good idea, like pressure switches. So we have sensors, we have controls, and then we would also have TXVs. Those are the major components that kind of change as we move into the new A2L refrigerants. You'll see here in the nomenclature, and we'll get into another slide here, -01, -71. Those are, Allied is moving to a bridge system, so some components will be able to be converted to 454B, and others will become dedicated, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. This is kind of if you've ever been to a shopping mall and you're lost, and you go to the map in the shopping mall and it says, hey, you are here. This is where we are right now with regards to refrigerant transitions. This is open orders with the manufacturer. This is not necessarily what's in my inventory, but you can see that we're really neck deep in the middle of it. We have product right now in both refrigerants. Stuff is coming in, stuff we're running out of, and you're neck deep in the middle of it. So if you're hoping that this thing won't happen and it will just go away, you will be disappointed, because we're in the midst of it. So you'll see here some of the new products here, which is this lighter blue, teal color, aquamarine possibly. These are some of the new products. We began ordering them from the manufacturer a while ago. We have inventory of them. We're currently in the process of ordering some of these newer products. And res packs we don't sell or stock a lot of in the Allied brand. And then there's some future products still. We're still waiting for the manufacturer to roll them out. There are some dedicated 454 coils and air handlers that we're also beginning to start to order. But you can see some of these coils here in the past. We had our last orders a while ago for some of the old 410A stuff. Furnaces will change in the future, not happening yet, but that is slated in the future. And the major change there really has to do with the integration of that refrigerant sensor control into the furnace control board. We have a tool that we use internally that we use to kind of map out our current inventory of 410A product and what those new products are moving into the future. I have a roadmap that we'll go over in a little more detail, but just to let you know, we've developed a lot of our own tools internally to help us keep an eye on what we're running low of, what the replacement is, and whether or not we have enough of it on order. We have a really great team of people here at APR Supply. Allied has a great team of people too, but we really have a lot of attention on this subject. It's obviously a very big deal. It's millions of dollars of inventory. We're doing our very best to get it right. Stocking strategy, we placed our last orders for 410A quite some time ago. The goal, as we were looking at that roadmap and You Are Here map and the timeline, is to plan it so that we have enough of a buffer of product on order to get us past when we think the new stuff is available. Roughly about 6 weeks. Allied has been very good about meeting their timeline so far, and it's worked out pretty good. Flagship brand, Aries and Armstrong brands, our goal is to move to the 454B as it becomes available. That's how we planned our inventory, not dragging those brands out longer than we necessarily need to. However, we did choose with Concord, which is the value-driven line, on the ACs and heat pumps, entry-level ACs and heat pumps, to hopefully have enough inventory to get us to about June. So if you're someone that really doesn't want to transition until you absolutely have to, know that we have a pretty good amount of inventory of Concord products that we hope, and match components that we hope gets us to about the June timeframe. This transition's a little different because, we talked about products and systems and components. That 1-year sell-through is not just a ban from us being able to buy it and sell it to you, but that's a straight up install ban. So come January 1 of 2026, as an installing contractor, by law, you can no longer install 410A systems. The 01 versus 71 has to do with a manufacturer's strategy of, I'm just going to call these a flex coil and air handler. They come shipped as R410A, but they are convertible to 454B. That is extremely nice for me as a distributor, because if I have one in stock, it's not dead inventory. I can convert it to 454B. It will require, and that's kind of the introduction product that we're currently stocking now. We can convert it to 454B if we need to. It would require some of those other accessories that we briefly talked about: sensors, control boards, and a TXV. Not wildly difficult, easily convertible. And then in the future, the air handlers and coils, which will move to a -71 in the nomenclature. That's a suffix that will be at the tail end of the model nomenclature. Those will be factory shipped and ready to rock and roll for 454B. They will have the sensors already installed, and in some cases, the control boards, in the case of the air handlers, will be factory installed. Furnaces a little bit further down the timeline. Starting with the coil nomenclature here, just so you understand some of the changes to the new products. Starting with coils and air handlers, because the nomenclature is identical between the various brands. The Aries, Armstrong, Concord all share the same nomenclature for coils. You will see the use of the number 7. That will be our indicator in a lot of the allied products for 454B. Either it is compatible with that, or it is dedicated. In either scenario, the 7 is a good indicator that you're on the right path for a 454B system. 7E, that'd be your evaporator coils. And not listed here is C, which would be cased upflow, but there's upflow coils, horizontal, downflow, and I think somewhere in the timeline, a multi-position is coming back. And then at the tail end, the suffix of 01 and 71, like we just talked about. Quick roadmap of coils. These are some of the legacy coil models that you may be familiar with. These are those bridge coils, the 01s that we currently are stocking, and then in the future they become dedicated to that refrigerant. So for the most part, if it existed before, it will exist in the future. I think some takeaways would be coils that had a piston or flow rater or a fixed orifice. Those are really, will become dinosaurs. Everything will become TXV only. Air handler nomenclature, a similar strategy of 7AH. There is an EF or an electric furnace, a modular air handler, if you will. Some of the air handlers are single piece, some of the air handlers are 2-piece, so that you'll see that in the nomenclature. There will still be options for PSE air handlers, constant torque ECM, as well as variable speed. That remains unchanged. Various tonnages, TXVs, and then somewhere in that suffix you should see either a -01 or a -71 also, just so you're aware. Quick roadmap of air handlers. Again, really for the most part, if it existed in the land of Oz previously in 410A, that strategy of available products remains unchanged, just nomenclature change. Dimensions, even ratings for the most part, are very, very similar. These are the higher performance models. These are two-piece. So if you were ever wondering, does Allied make a two-piece air handler? They do. They have, and they will continue to. They don't show a picture of it here, but this EFV, which they call an electric furnace, you could kind of think of that as really the top half of an air handler. We do currently stock that. If you weren't aware, now you are, and that will remain available into the future. Nice for attic installs. You typically match that with a compatible coil, either upflow, horizontal, or multi-position, and away you go. This is the flagship brand, Aries or Armstrong nomenclature. It is the same whether it's Aries or Armstrong. So if you don't see Armstrong here and that's your brand, just know that it's the same nomenclature. Again, you see the use of the number 7 here. We will have a variety of different options: air conditioner, heat pump. There will be a new cold climate heat pump unit available, which is a nice addition. Compressors will be either fixed speed or variable speed. If you remembered multi-stage compressors in the past, that you will not see that in the future as I know it, at least right now. It is either single speed or it is an inverter product. Similar story as far as availability as a roadmap. If it existed before, it exists into the future. So we will have a full modulating outdoor unit. There will be a step-down modulating unit. There will also be single-stage stuff. A takeaway here in the nomenclature strategy is that Allied is moving to, or from, an up-to strategy where units used to get up to 17 SEER, up to 16 SEER, and the nomenclature would reflect a 1.7 or 1.6. They are now changing that strategy, which was confusing for many, to go with really what is it kind of out of the box. And so you'll see what used to be a 17 is now a 14, and what used to be a 16 is now a 13. I've looked at ratings, know that you're not, it didn't become a less efficient unit. It's strictly a marketing nomenclature strategy change. People thought we were overselling them product when they wanted something entry level. Same thing with the heat pump. So you'll see this new A7CP. It doesn't have an HP, so that might be a little confusing, but that is the cold climate heat pump that's new. Some cabinet changes, which I'll discuss. There will still be another inverter product in there as well, and entry-level single-stage stuff. Again, here you would see that nomenclature change. It used to be a 17, and now it's becoming a 14. Concord, very similar nomenclature strategy there as well. You'll see that it'll start with a 7 here to indicate the 454B. There will be single stage options and also inverter. Nice that you have an inverter option in the value line. So air conditioners, you'll see that's really an inverter heat pump. They don't make a 2-stage anymore. You will see single stage product for our southern markets or for higher efficiency matchups, as well as an entry level. Same story with the model nomenclature to reflect the standard efficiencies. Same thing with heat pumps. Gas furnaces, major takeaways here that I'm just going to point out. This doesn't happen until maybe Q2 of 2025, if I had to guess when we start to see it. The big takeaway is you'll see the K at the end of the nomenclature. Really, none of the options for the furnaces are changing that I know of. It's strictly just a change into that integrated control to be able to receive the sensors. It existed before, it exists moving into the future. You probably started to see this already. Some of the old 97s are now 98s. We have a really, really wonderful lineup of gas furnaces. We probably have more tax credit qualifying 97% plus gas furnaces than any other manufacturer on the market today. Some of those are 2-stage standard ECM, like this guy, and some are true variable speed. And then we have an actual modulating gas furnace as well. Great products. Same on the 80%, the non-condensing side. Low NOx, we don't really stock. That's really more of a California thing. Concord, I spelled that wrong, Concord. Same sort of nomenclature. You'll see that K. You're going to sneak that K in there at the tail end of the model number. That's your indicator. Same strategies. What was is still exists today. But even in the Concord value line, you'd see that we have two 97% gas furnace options. One is variable speed, and the other is constant torque ECM. Really nice having those options, and we stock them. 80%, similar strategy. Electric heat packs. We have our own charts and data internally to help us navigate this, know that the electric heats have changed to conform to new A2L standards and regulatory changes. And you don't need to remember all these model numbers, but you might see some model numbers that you used to know. The ECBA 25s are now ECB 45s. They are backwards compatible, so really no need to worry about that. And same with if you're selling any of the current two-piece air handlers, those models are backwards compatible. There is really only one outlier. If you're somebody that sells the old BCE 7S, that's a communicating capable air handler. You're selling communicating systems. As we move to the new communicating capable air handlers that are two-piece, that air handler requires a very specific electric heat kit moving forward. If you're an installing contractor, you don't need to memorize that. Know that we have some tools internally to help us with that, but that is a change that happened. Takeaways on electric heats, like I mentioned, the new ones are backwards compatible for the most part. The only one that's the outlier is the BCE 7S. Those are specific electric heat kits. This chart, again, just kind of shows you different scenarios, and we'll go over one of when you might need to add the sensor and the control. Great example would be you buy a condenser and a coil and a current gas furnace today. Right now, we're shipping the O1 coils. You have the 454B condensing unit. Maybe we ran out of 410A and we're subbing with that. Well, you would need that coil, the O1 coil. You would need the sensor. You would need this control. And then you would also need to change the TXV as well. So 3 components. As we move forward and some of the coils become the Dash 71s and the furnaces and air handlers are the Dash 71s, there's nothing additional you can see in this box, nothing additional we really need. That'll, in the future, this really just bridges us till that all that stuff becomes available. These are charts that we use here that are flow charts to help us understand, hey, I'm doing a new air handler installation. Great. What is the application here? Is it a multi-refrigerant? Oh, yeah, it's an O1. That's what we're currently shipping. Well, how are you using it? With 410A or 454B? Well, it's going to be with a 454B condensing unit. Okay, you're going to need the following things here, plus a TXV kit. Okay, and I'll show you how we manage that internally, but just know that those are accessories that are needed for now. Same thing with the coil, similar flow chart. Hey, here's the O1 coil. How's it being used? Hey, if it's 410A, I don't need to do anything different. If it's 454B, I just have to understand, is it a new furnace? Is it an older furnace? Let's say it's the current furnace. Okay, I need all these different things here. These charts are available on request. These are the TXV part numbers, very simple, 3 different TXVs depending on your tonnage of coil. This is a real world example. I picked this model because we're starting to run low on some of the Aries 410A outdoors. This is the new model nomenclature for the 454B. I would be likely matching it with an O1 coil. I would need the RDSC, the refrigerant detection sensor control field kit. It's going on a non-communicating furnace, so this would be the guy that I need. I would need the coil sensor right here to mount in the coil. And then I would also need this TXV kit also to make it all work. This is kind of what it looks like if you're looking at it in the field. I have a condensing unit, and the wires go back to my control, probably mounted on the coil or by the furnace. My thermostat comes into the control, the sensor comes into the control, and then my furnace wiring also comes back to the control. It is literally becomes the new interim brain of the system. That tells everything what to do. There are LEDs on the control itself that will show you whether it's operating normally, whether it has gone through a mitigation. So even if you came back to a job after the fact and you saw that the light was blue, you would know that something happened, an event happened. Now, it might be running normally, but you would know that it actually went through a mitigation at some point. This is just a screenshot within our business system. This would be something that is transparent to most of our customers, but it's an example of if someone in the order department selected a coil, you can see the -01 in the nomenclature. We list a couple possible substitutions. If we didn't have it, you can see we have a sturdy amount of these coils as we speak. But if we wanted to convert it to 454B, order department sees the components that they would need to convert it. They're also a big red flashing light with, there's no sound that comes up, but another indicator of them of, hey, for 454B applications, please include the following accessories. So we're doing a lot internally to make sure that we're giving you the right products every single time. This is an example of a coil that's been converted for 454B. If you've known me any amount of time, I joke around quite a bit, and people are always telling me why are the coils getting so big, and I'll use this as my running joke was because they're running out of space to put the stickers, which is not really why they're getting bigger, but it's convenient that they're big because we do require a lot of stickers for the new A2L refrigerants so that people understand it's in the mildly flammable category, and to not do silly things that are going to create problems. A neat picture here of this coil is also showing the boots. These are rubber boots. These will come with the sensor kits, and the intention of them is to cover up the refrigerant joint that you would have that you either braze or you might move to press in the future. And it creates really an airtight seal outside of the cabinet that funnels any leak that may happen in your joint back to the case so that the sensor can pick up that leak. Okay, so even though the coil itself might not be leaking, a leak potentially that's in your refrigerant joint outside of the cabinet might be triggering that sensor for you. So it's a neat snapshot if you're curious of what does that actual RDSC control board look like. You'll see there are screw-in terminals here for your thermostat, your condenser, and then going into your indoor unit, test buttons, dip switches that you'll set, whether you're using one sensor or two. They do give you a second Molex plug here, just in the case that a local municipality required that not only do you need a sensor inside of your cabinet, but you need it in a concealed space, like a closet, you might require or want a second sensor, you could install it. That board has that provision already. There are some zoning terminals on here if you're doing particular type of zoning, and also some dry, optional alarm dry terminal contacts. So you could, if you wanted to, hook up an audible alarm so that if a refrigerant leak was detected and you went through mitigation, that it would actually make an alarm go off, audible noise. A quick plug here for our A3 communicated control. Really no changes to that, just kind of an awareness slide here that we have many systems within the Aries product family or Armstrong that are communicating capable. They make a very nice communicate and control, very plug and play. It's a great user interface, high end, control temperature, humidity, really becomes the window into the system of how the system is operating. It's Wi-Fi. If you like high-end types of systems, just know that they make a very nice communicating control. It's called the A3 communicated control. That remains unchanged regardless of the refrigerant change. Some other changes to the product lineup here as we know it, Aries and Concord, are you're going to see longer stub outs on the service valves. There still will be bell ends, but they will be long enough that if you want to cut that bell end off to press, that you're not really sweating bullets as you're cutting that bell end off, hoping there's enough meat on the end for pressing. There's plenty of room on there, and that's a good thing, I think. We sell the Maxi Pro, very fond of that product. Happy to talk to you. You can talk to your product managers about that, OSRs, salespeople, counter people, happy to get you all set up for press. I will say this, despite the change in the nomenclature, 16 going to a 13, 17 going to a 14, the ratings are still extremely strong. Still lots of tax credits, which we'll talk about, available. I think you're still going to be very happy with system performance, just a marketing change there. Pro Series outdoors right now, these would be your cold climate, the high-end inverters, Pro Series that I'm aware of, are going to have a cosmetic change. Very nice new cabinet design, a composite top, composite base. So if you like selling high-end systems, you'll really like what you see there. I will note this too, probably hard to see on your screen, but they have added a screw at the mid-level of the panels. And, you know, hold your applause, please, on that. I know that has been asked for by many of our customers, and that screw there will help to prevent any of the bowing that sometimes happens. You know, the manufacturer went through the design of their current product. It's always been very nice. There was only 2 screws that you had to remove a panel. And there were dimples on the side that held that panel in place. Well, you know, just sometimes in shipping that, you know, might get moved around a little bit and it doesn't hold securely. Those 2 screws are going to hold those panels really nice in place. So that's a change currently happening. You will see at some point the variable speed motor modules for gas furnaces. That's on the new products that are coming down the road. That motor module will actually be relocated closer to the furnace control assembly. And you're going to see a lot more screw-in terminals versus wire nuts on products. All welcome changes. Shifting gears, Magic Pack, part of the Allied family. These are just a few slides. If you didn't know, we sell Magic Pack or through-the-wall package units. You do now. The M series is kind of more of the newer style, more options available. The V series has been around for quite some time. You will see on some of the products may have mitigation controls as an option. If you are using less than 4.1 pounds of refrigerant, you do not, I believe the manufacturer is not required to include the mitigation control. So units that have small refrigerant circuits, some ductless systems, may not require the use of that mitigation control. You may not see it. Geothermal is another one that lives in that world. Very little change to the product family. You can see here, this is where we are with Magic Pack products. We're right on the cusp, if not in the middle of that change. The manufacturer is moving over. Since that is considered a quote-unquote product of a sealed circuit, you know, that has a little bit more sell-through period there. But we're switching over as we speak. Big takeaways here in the nomenclature change, if you're familiar with the Magic Pack product, again, is the 7 that you're going to see in the middle of the nomenclature reflecting the refrigerant change. Other than that, not a whole lot of change in their nomenclature. It'd be very similar looking. You will just see that 7. Again, on the M series, you will see the 7 integrated into the model nomenclature. This is really just about that transition rule and products versus systems versus components and how it all plays out. Even though a condensing unit might be considered a component, that there are some rules and regulations about for a manufacturer to continue to sell it, what minimum efficiency it has to require as a component to sell it. It basically it's going to go away. You're not going to be able to buy a condensing unit really as a component. The manufacturers cannot make them anymore. So as long as you can find them in the marketplace, good luck to you. But expect a limited supply, just like what happened with R22. More on that same subject with regards to Magic Pack. Again, that's considered a product, a sealed product from the manufacturer, 3-year sell-through, if you can find it. Okay, the manufacturers have to stop making it, but the hard part will be finding it. Chassis, which are that sealed refrigerant circuit, also fall into that bucket as well. Again, really just will you be able to find it? Already went over nomenclature. Timeline we already talked about. Quick update on tax credit 25C, which affects most of the residential products that we sell. This program, what's not changing is still good through 2032. Homeowner can still get up to $2,000 for qualifying heat pumps. They can still get $600 for furnaces, $600 for AC. Gas furnaces still have a requirement of 97%. That is unchanged. What is changing is the performance level or the ratings required to hit those standards. Another change is that if you live somewhere very close to the border of North and South, we do in our market, Pennsylvania is considered North, Delaware and Maryland are considered South. That reference to North and South goes away. You will see a new reference called Path A and Path B, which works in a similar manner. If you have a system that has a higher HSPF, they will allow a little bit lower EER, which is a cooling requirement. If you have a little higher EER, they will allow a little lower HSPF. So the takeaway on those changes here is that the SEER 2 level for air conditioning, which was 16, changed to 17. The EER remains unchanged at 12. What does that mean to you? That is an extremely difficult standard to get to with single and two-stage equipment. Okay, it definitely bumps out single stage, and it will bump out a lot of two-stage stuff. In the case of heat pumps, the SEER 2 has been changed from 15.2 to 16 across the board, Path A and Path B. Again, a very difficult standard to get to in single stage and two stage. This really means you are likely going to be selling more inverters. You will likely sell more heat pumps as a result of that, since most of them are heat pumps. And you will probably find that standard for heat pumps to be easier to hit with inverters than trying to hit air conditioning. Again, the furnace requirement of 97% is not changing. And in the Allied family, you have a very long list of products that qualify for that. And that's a great position. You might find yourself not even trying to get to the air conditioning standard and just focusing on gas furnaces. And that's not a bad thing. We hope you sell more heat pumps too. Hybrid systems, sell more hybrids. That gets to the end of my slideshow. I'd love to open it up for questions going to stop sharing here and see if there's any questions in the chat. If you have a question you'd like to ask, you can either raise your hand, you can add it to the chat, or unmute yourself if you're brave enough to talk amongst the crowd here. Anybody got any questions? Comments? Any lucky numbers that want to play in the lottery tonight? 7, the number 7. Wow. We are done a little early, which isn't a bad thing. If you have any questions as follow-up, please reach out to your APR product manager, your outside sales rep, talk to the team at the counter. We're happy to help you out. I know it's a confusing subject. We really appreciate you guys and gals, joining in on the meeting here today to learn more about it, stay up to speed. We are neck deep in the middle of that transition, and we are here to help you out. So thank you for joining here. Susie, are there any closing remarks you need to have?
No, just we'll keep adding some of these virtual webinars as we're able to in the new year. We added a bunch of in-person A2L refrigerant trainings in January, so you can register for those and just keep an eye out for upcoming virtual webinars. But thank you, Tom. And the recording will be available on our YouTube channel, and I'll send it out to everyone on the registration list too.
We got somebody said, I sent this out. Oh, Bob, I'll write it down here. Can I get a printout? Susie, if I gave you a PDF of this, could you include that on the follow-up?
Yeah, is this the same? Is it the same PDF as last time?
It's been a couple changes.
Okay, yeah, so if you send it to me, I'll include it in the email when I send out the recording.
All right, that works. So we will get that to you, Bob. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Tom.
Yes, sir.